I'm saying is, forget about those people.
Trust me, I've worked with people like that my entire life, and I know they can come to it, but it's not easy at all for them. It's a million times harder for them than it could be
what's
for
What's
me or
required
you.
for us as a society is not easy. If it were easy, it would have been done already. This is not easy.
I kind of like the thought of like trying to say that we have to rewire ourselves. I mean, like only who knows what would happen if we could all rewire ourselves and just have that feeling of emptiness. But you know, you just gotta look at it too. Like, regardless of how you feel, how I feel, no matter what, this world is how it is. And you know how hard it's gonna be to have billions of people to like feel that they have to rewire themselves to feel this emptiness that's whole like tranquil and like just.
And I guess this is what I'm saying is if I have an opinion inside of myself that can't occur, this talk would never happen.
Yeah, exactly, but you know.
So that's
I'm not mocking anything. I'm just saying.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Do you see how that opinion? If I had that opinion, that this would be meaningless, then I would never even be willing to talk about this with anyone. I'd say it's pointless. But see, as long as I don't have the opinion or the belief tying me down to say this is wrong or right, I'm willing to get up and talk to you guys.
Yeah, that's no problem. Like I don't think it's wrong at all. I mean, jeez. Can only imagine if I could make myself feel the emptiness and just be able to, you know, but like definitely to rewire me, I know for a fact it would be the hardest thing in the world because just like a lot of people out there, you know, I'm stubborn. I keep myself to a lot of different ways. And also, you know, I have more than myself to think about. I have my wife to think about. I have my family to think about. So it's kind of, if I did it, it'd be kind of selfish in a way.
See, I see it as I said, being able to come up here and talk to you guys and share with you guys what's going on with me is the first time for myself.
Yeah, it's more power.
No, what I'm saying to you guys is this is the action that I see, this ability to share with other people. Not an opinion or belief, but what is actually going on inside of me, the fact of what I'm feeling. That's the fact. This isn't an opinion, this is what is actually occurring. That ability to share with other people, that to me is the act of love. And that's the very thing that's going to actually create the change that's necessary.
Well, that's 100% true.
It's not going to be ideas and opinions that will constantly tear us apart. It's going to be the ability to say, I see you guys struggling, I see myself struggling, and saying, we have to change this. And it's not going to be through physical force.
I just wanted to respond to that. I've been trying for the last 4 years, what you call see clearly is actually my term.
Okay.
For 4 years I've been systematically trying to see more clearly.
Okay.
Through a specific program, and it's to do what you're describing is, no one will quarrel that it's extremely hard. It's like trying to claw your way up a cliff with no handholds. Like, where do you get started? The tools I've been using, I dissect, I analyze my emotional responses to situations. Hopefully, I try to do it while I'm actually having the response. But sometimes the nature of emotions being what they are, you got to do a playback later. It's like, damn, why did I do that? And I interrogate myself, and I start finding answers. More often than not, I find fears. And but you got to interrogate your fears too. And it's like peeling away layers of an onion, which is a cliche, but it really is like that. Because on a given situation, I'll find myself working it for weeks before I get to what I really do feel, and I always seem to know it when I see it as a base truth. And maybe that's that emptiness you're talking about. It's my base state, you know, without it being covered over, calloused over with multiple fears and multiple protection layers and multiple denial structures that I've erected on this huge foundation of fears and other emotions, digging down to that base state, which is, I think, what you're describing, because when I get there, I feel free. And that is the closest thing I've been able to come to a methodology of actually systematically trying to do what you say you did in a moment of revelation. I can't. I mean, I get mini revelations from a given situation. Maybe I exploded in anger, or I got irritated, or I felt jealous, or even a good emotion can also be used. But those are something you can actually sink your fingernails into and start pulling at to peel and expose new yous. And the deeper you get, the closer you get to something that I really do see as our base state, our whatever our foundation state is, our empty state, I think is what you're calling it.
Let me stick 2 cents in here, please. It's quite possible that everyone feels or can approach this in a slightly different way. In other words, just for the sake of argument, for you, it seemed to have happened very quickly, very spontaneously, although even you will admit that there was a lot of preamble to this. In other words, you had to go through a lot of trials to get to the point where you said, something isn't working here in my life, what's going on? And then, very quickly, you uncovered, we'll call it the truth, the emptiness, your state of being, where you could simply look at things and not form opinions about them, or not hold on to opinions about them. Someone like Steve, for instance, he's got a lifetime of analyzing, analytical mind, scientific work. He's a lawyer. He's constantly, his job basically is working and making arguments back and forth.
And I was also in a bad place at that time 4 years ago,
Okay.
which caused me to start doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tried to change.
Right. My point is that some people may actually have to work a hell of a lot harder than other people to achieve that state, but it may be achievable by anyone.
So the transformation itself is instantaneous.
Correct.
The actual getting to that process, anything that changes, let's say you're a smoker and you want to stop smoking. Your smoking habit doesn't end until you put the last cigarette down. So it might take you years of cutting down, but when you finally make that switch to say, all right, that's my last one, that last one is instantaneous. So you can think you've made progress all the way up to that point, but the actual change occurs at the last second. It's an instantaneous change. So when that happens, it's not you see, wow, it took me a long time to get to this point. But the actual change there's no time involved at all. So I want to get back to your question about analyzation and why that's just an endless path that will lead nowhere. And I'll explain that to you. In order for anything to operate correctly, it has to work completely. If I have an engine and I take out one part, it may operate for quite a while just fine. But eventually, because it's missing that one screw or bolt attached to the engine, eventually it'll start to rattle loose, stop, not work correctly. Analyzation is the process of singling out certain things, looking at the thing in pieces. It's like having a puzzle. If I had a puzzle here with 1,000 pieces, and I said, guys, I'm going to put in one piece, tell me what that puzzle is. You'd say, well, I need more information. I could fill it in with all the pieces except for one, and you guys, well, I know what that is. But I could throw that one piece in there and throw your whole concept of what's going on off. So that's the way the mind works. The mind works through analyzation. That's the way we normally do things. That's what we call rational thought. What I'm saying is that's how I approached my golf swing, was with that. Okay, this needs to be here, then that needs to be here, and I'll work on that. And you could dissect it for 100 years. There's a ton of people that do that. Just with golf, because I know golf so much, the handicap in golf, which is how players play and how they've improved over the years, the handicap in golf is 18 strokes over par, the average handicap. We've had people learning and studying about golf through analyzation for 500 years. The handicap has not changed 1 point in that time. So all this incredible analyzation has done nothing for us through movement. Zero. But yet we still believe, through our belief and our opinion, that that's going to work. So what I would say is, if you can take this in your own mind and say, here comes the process of analyzation. I'm ready to analyze this. And say, what happens if I put this analyzation down? I don't use this process. And just look at what's right in front of me. You'll see that the very analyzation that you're going into is the very thing that creates the confusion. All it takes is just a second to look at it. Again, not right or wrong. Look at it for yourself. See what you come up with.
I've been able to achieve clarity through it. For example, I was a lifelong depressive.
Okay?
I'm not depressed anymore. I finally figured out why I had depression. Now, it took weeks of working at that particular issue because I was particularly depressed at the time, and to a point where it was very unpleasant. And it was what you call analysis, and I guess that's the word, but it was more like a conscious me saying, why do I feel this way? And initially you get no answer. It's like you're talking to the woods. But if finally you start seeing answers, and it just exposes another question, of course, which was you alluded. But I got deeper each time, and finally I reached a real truth. I said, wow. It was literally a wow moment.
If you don't ask the question, why am I depressed?
I'd still be depressed if I had.
Well, what I'm saying to you is, how do we